So Fidelma, can you tell me about your background in life before EY?
Yes, how long do you have is the question. So I worked in banking for more than 20 years before joining EY and saw quite a bit of change, needless to say, in that time. Some evolution, some revolution. The internet, mobile phone technology, and an enormous amount of change, particularly I suppose on the back of the banking crisis as well. So it's great to see the financial services industry regain its strength and build again towards a better future than the recent past.
So what actually attracted you then to move from industry back into professional services?
Interestingly enough, the first firm that I contracted as a banker was EY. And I knew a lot of people over the years who've worked in EY and in other professional services companies. For me personally, there was a pull and a push. The push was I was beginning to do again the types of things in banking that I had done for a very long period of time. And that was less interesting to me because it's the breadth of the role that I really enjoy. The pull was very strong interest in working for a global company, which EY is. A great dynamic, great sense of DNA for the firm. One of the first people I met said, the nicest people in the world work for EY, and he wasn't wrong. And there is such opportunity in EY to work across the whole range of financial services firms, but also across lots of jurisdictions. And in my time in EY over the past 3.5 years, I've worked with global banks, helping them adapt to the European regulatory regime. And that element of the role is extremely interesting to me, having been working in domestic banking for my career prior to joining EY.
Absolutely. And Fidelma, you mentioned change. Can you tell us a little bit more about some of the change you've seen in your career as a banking female leader?
Yes, there's a lot of change I've seen in that area as well. I was telling someone just yesterday that when I took my first job, I had to insist on wearing trousers because all of the women who worked in the company were all wearing uniforms, and I thought that really made women out to be second-class citizens. And over the course of 20 years, of course, we have seen a huge amount of the advancement of people, not just on a gender basis, but on every other basis as well, which is long overdue in my opinion, but very welcome.
Can you tell us a little bit about your current role now in EY?
Since joining EY 3 years ago, I've worked with generally global banks, getting their license to operate in Ireland, and then to some extent keeping their license to operate in financial services. It's one of the most highly regulated industries in the world, I would say, and meeting that regulatory change whilst being able to still achieve your ambition as an organisation is key for companies at this point.
Where do you see your clients' needs evolving over the next few years?
So in the immediate term, I think we will still see a lot of focus moving from the banking sector, where there's been a lot of regulatory change. We're now seeing that move across to the insurance sector, and very quickly after that it's moving over to investment firms and asset management companies, which have had a very light touch regulation to date. So that's a very big, I think, change in the sector as a whole. Other things that are changing are as a result of the world being a much smaller place. And some of that is to do with pandemics, as we're seeing at the moment, and what the impact of that can be, not only on human life, which is dreadful, but also in terms of the economic reverberations. And also one of the big thrusts at this point is climate change and sustainable finance. And over the past 2 to 3 years, there's been a big push from a governmental, from a policy perspective, but very much so from financial services perspective, to incentivize financial services firms to reduce finance for anything to do with fossil fuels, to increase their disclosures in relation to who they are lending to. And there is a question as to whether or not into the future banks will be penalised from a capital perspective if they continue to provide finance for non-green type companies.
So Fidelma, what are the job opportunities within your area in EY?
So we're a growing firm in EY in Ireland, and we have opportunities across all aspects of the work that we do, including where I'm, which is risk advisory. Just yesterday I posted a blog with one of my colleagues' work history to get people who aren't involved in professional services to understand a little bit more about what work is available. So big picture, we're hiring across all fields.
Fantastic. Fidelma, would you have any advice for anyone thinking or considering a career in financial services?
Yeah, my advice would be to take it. It's one of the most interesting industries you can work in. It tends to be cover all different types of financial services needs. One of the huge benefits of working in a company like EY is its global reach. So I would spend more time today talking to colleagues in Italy, in Germany, Poland last week, Russia the week before, and the States. So that global reach, the fact that the world is now a village, means that financial services is a very interesting place to work.
Well, thanks for your time, Fidelma.